My name is Sean and I'm delighted to join us for today's ESPC community webinar. Today I'm joined by Brian DeLuca, who will be presenting Beyond Internal Analytics, Building Governed Customer-Facing Intelligence on Power BI. We love hearing what you guys have to say, so remember join conversation about today's webinar and more on X. Our handle is at ESPC_community and our hashtag is hashtag ESPC26. Tweet us, tag us, and tell us what you learned. Don't forget to check out our Learning Hub, which updates the latest blogs, ebooks, webinars, and how-to videos. You can access and view the Learning Hub by visiting esbc.tech and clicking the Learning Hub at the top of the page. Don't forget to join us for our next webinar, Mastering Microsoft Fabric Data Warehousing, Tips and Tricks You Need to Know, presented by Christina Ferris, taking place tomorrow, Wednesday, the 15th July, 11 a.m. CST. To register, visit www.esbc.tech/Learning Hub Content Weeks Microsoft Fabric Week. Time's ticking. Your future network is waiting. Don't miss the conversations, insights, and opportunities everyone will be taking and talking long after the event ends. Secure your place today and be in a room where it happens. Save €300 with the code Fabric Week when you book your ticket. Before you switch on your out of office, make one last smart move. Secure your place at FabCon and SQLCon Europe in Barcelona and take advantage of the early bird rates. Book by the 31st of July to lock in early bird pricing and use the code Fabric Week to save an additional €300 on your ticket. Enjoy your summer knowing your place is reserved at Europe's leading Microsoft Data and AI conference. If you haven't entered already for your chance to win Lego, scan the QR code to enter today's giveaway from our Microsoft Fabric Week sponsor Acteries. T's and C's apply. As always, if you have any questions at any stage during the webinar, please feel free to type in the chat box and Brian will answer them throughout the session. The webinar will be recorded and added to the Resource Center, where you'll be notified by email once it's available. And now I'm going to hand you over to today's presenter. Hello, Brian. Thanks for joining us today.
Hey, everyone. Thanks, Sean. All right, let's jump into it today. I see there's a comment about some audio issues. So if anybody can't hear me or has trouble hearing you, please put in the chat. Hopefully everyone can hear and see me okay. I'm going to share out my screen also, so let us know if you have any issues seeing the content. Okay. So thanks for the intro, Sean. A little bit about me to start. So the session today is on Beyond Internal Analytics, building governed customer-facing intelligence on Power BI. My name is Brian DeLuca. I'm the co-founder and CEO of Reporting Hub, which is an ISV software solution. And we're based in Calgary, Canada. So it's in the morning for me. It's 8 a.m. in the morning for me right now. And I'm based in Calgary, but I'm actually in a cabin in the mountains of interior British Columbia right now. So hopefully my internet holds and everything goes well today. But I'm not currently at home. I'm kind of on a vacation right now in the middle of BC. So hopefully everything comes through okay. About myself, I've been in the data analytics space for well over 20 years. Been at the forefront of data and analytics, going back to kind of the infancy, and going certainly an early adopter of Power BI when it first came out, 10 plus years ago now. Worked in a consulting capacity for years, started a consulting agency back 10 plus years ago. I was doing Power BI and data consulting, and then kind of transitioned that into more of a software or software solution, and been doing that for the last kind of 5-6 years. And then we've been partnered with Microsoft for about 4 or 5 years now also. We work closely with the Power BI embedded team at Microsoft and the product team to ensure that our solution kind of is, meets all the needs and stays up to date and all the latest and greatest. So very, very kind of closely tied in with the product team from Microsoft. Thanks for the hellos from around the world there. Appreciate it. Nice to see everyone from. I was in Vienna last year for the FabCon, and it was great to meet a lot of the European counterparts. So um, thanks for the hellos. So a little bit about Reporting Hub. I'm going to preface and say this is not going to be a session about the Reporting Hub. This is not a sales pitch for Reporting Hub. I started Reporting Hub. That's the solution why I'm presenting today, but it's not going to be about that. I'll show that as an example. We'll show that as the backdrop. But the point I want to make is Reporting Hub leverages the same tools that you can use today with Power BI Embedded, Azure AI Foundry. It uses these same tools that you can use, and so you don't have to use Reporting Hub. You can build your own solution. You can build a custom solution using Power BI Embedded for external reporting. I'm using it as more of a demonstration to show you what is possible, the art of the possible. But again, this isn't a sales pitch. Okay, I'll be very clear up front about that. I just want everybody to know what it is. So we've been in market for over 5 years. We have over 200 customers in over 30 countries around the world. We have, I think it's over 250,000 now active users around the world using Reporting Hub in one way, shape, or form. So we're talking about external reporting and beyond internal analytics. So let's start by saying, okay, well, we're talking about external. What's the difference between internal and external reporting, and why does it matter? So I think this is an area where let's just start here because it's probably the biggest gap in understanding. I think everybody assumes analytics is one thing, um, and kind of like a one size fits all, and really it's not. And we need to treat it differently when we're talking external reporting. So for internal BI, when Power BI came out 10 plus years ago, Power BI was built as an internal uh, analytics platform. So internal being within the four walls of your organization. So that's the key thing about when I say internal, I mean basically, it's within your organization, within your single Microsoft tenant, deployed within your Azure installment and all that, and within your app.powerbi.com. All of that is within your Microsoft tenant. So that's what we mean by internal. And that's what Power BI was built for, and that's what every other BI platform, whether it's Tableau or Click or any of these things, they were built as kind of internal BI platforms. So when we think about internal, it's really built for exploration. It's an analyst first access model, and yes, we share to executives and stakeholders and all that, but fundamentally it's built for the analyst, and then the analyst then shares that within their organization. And then there's the flexibility is in how the reason Power BI has been so successful is how flexible it is to build custom solutions and govern that internally. But when we're talking external reporting, it is a bit different. The big thing being trust, and as soon as you let information go outside of the four walls of your organization, that information is out in the wild. So we need to make sure that that is built for trust. We need to make sure there's isolation when it comes to multi-tenancy, multi-customers. We need to have in the age of AI, we need to make sure that we can trace why what was delivered, why it was delivered with reasoning within the AI models, and we need to make sure it's extremely governed. So again, not that internal BI is not governed, but external needs to be another layer of governance that goes over and above what we expect for internal. So what makes external reporting different? So again, once that analytics or once that insight leaves the four walls of your organization, the rules change. So risk goes up, expectations rise, governance becomes stricter. So those are all the things that we need to make sure we're paying attention to when we deliver external analytics. So again, the BI stack was built for the analyst. External reporting is built for the customer. That's probably the easiest single one-liner that we can use to distinguish the two. External analytics is built for the customer. So that customer could be, your actual customer, your paying customer for whatever your service might be. It could be, an external consultant. It could be a board, your organization's board, people that don't necessarily, exist within your internal organization. So any of those external things can be called a customer in this case. And confusing the two, internal versus external, is where a lot of organizations get into trouble. And that's why when we kind of start by understanding the difference between the two, we can start to kind of set ourselves up for success for external reporting and beyond the internal reporting. So probably the biggest thing that matters when we're talking external reporting is the idea of customer separation. And in this case, we're talking kind of multi-tenancy. And multi-tenancy meaning basically each customer environment is unique and each customer environment is secure. So customer A can't get into customer B's data. And when we're talking Power BI, that usually comes into concepts like, workspaces or role level security, or in some cases, dynamic binding. We have several, things that we can do to ensure that we have segregation and security within a multi-tenant environment. So again, it's key in an external because internal BI shares everything within one tenant. It's not that big of a deal. Isolation is a lot easier to manage. When we talk external, it gets that much more difficult. And then we can get into multiple layers of external delivery too, where it gets even more difficult. So the big things are we need to have clear data separation for every single customer environment. We need to have independent customer access, and we need to have zero cross customer visibility, so enforced at the system level. So this is where I typically don't recommend using RLS when we're talking about a multi-tenancy, multi-customer external environment. That's putting a lot of trust in kind of like your RLS setup. And RLS can be prone to human error. It can be prone to your data model might have a glitch in it in terms of like how you set up your data model for RLS, and there may be a data issue that can cause issues. So this is where when we talk customer segregation at the the scale level, I typically am not going to be recommending just RLS alone. We're going to be talking more system level segregation of data and environments. So that's a key kind of concept. And again, governance is broader and more strict when we're talking external reporting. So external governance must go further, and it must cover the full life cycle of what gets published and who gets what. So clear approvals, before publishing, versioning controls, and probably the biggest thing is the delivery tracking and audit records, especially when we're talking AI, in the world of AI. I think this is probably one of the bigger gaps right now in the world of insight and business intelligence, is the idea of AI generated insights and the governance and auditability of those insights as they leave our four walls of our organization. So again, when it's internal, it's much easier. We have things like Microsoft Fabric, and we have all these different ways to govern and keep our data secure, and all the things Microsoft's doing with data security and Fabric. Those are great for internal use cases. So it's when we go external to organization where things get trickier. And if we think of when we're talking external delivery, we're talking about potentially different authentication models. So we might be talking about customers who are using our insights that they're not Microsoft users. They might be Google users, or maybe they're using Okta to authenticate in or Auth0 or some other authentication provider. And this is where things can get muddy. The waters can get muddied in terms of, well, how do we audit that? How do we govern who sees what, who has access to what? And this is where some of the internal Microsoft Fabric tools that exist kind of don't necessarily extend to these types of use cases. So that's why we want to call them out and kind of be specific about how do we handle some of these things. So, well, what does purpose-built external reporting actually look like? So we've been talking about, what it is, why it matters, but what does it look like? So, we like to say there's kind of three different layers of it, especially with in the AI era. That's its own layer now. So we like to say, there's a dedicated orchestration layer that handles that multi-tenancy governed, secure delivery of that insight outside of your organization. So it's that orchestration layer that requires that extra effort. The first layer is what you're already using today, most likely. It's your Power BI layer. It's your data models, your semantic models, your data visualizations. Your data layers, whether it's in Fabric or wherever else. That's really what that kind of analytics foundation model is. And most organizations, that's kind of everything. They just have that one layer, and that one layer may consist of a bunch of different parts, obviously. But when we're talking from external reporting, I've kind of consolidated that into one layer. And then the second layer is where we really talk about that orchestrated delivery framework. Now, again, in this case, we're saying reporting hub, but it could be anything in terms of a portal, a platform to do this. But reporting hub coordinates the customer level delivery with full isolation branding and governance controls. So we have customer level data isolation, we have versioning governance, we have white label branding, audit logging, and commercial packaging. And when we're talking external reporting, a lot of times we talk about the idea of productizing that insight delivery. And I'll talk a little bit about that later, but that's what we talk about commercial packaging, where we're actually delivering insight as a product or as a server, as a service, um, as a standalone offering that your business can deliver. And that third layer is governed AI intelligence. So AI has, I think most people in the BI world, understand the benefits of AI, but I think we more than most also understand the risks and the challenges that come with AI in the BI world, in the data world, and it's insight itself has become incredibly easy to generate. It's become incredibly easy to build visualizations and derive insight. That's the single easiest thing to do today in the data world, and that's what AI is really delivered on. But what's the gap is the actual structured, governed, auditable delivery of that. So as soon as it goes outside of your organization, you're left with, well, who saw what? What did AI deliver? What did AI tell them? I thought the answer was 5, but the AI gave them an answer of 10. Why did it do that? These are all things that we need to be able to control, and we need to be able to have governance over and auditability and visibility to, so that we can actually deliver AI to our customers in a way that's secure and governed. Okay, I'm just checking on some of the chats here. Yeah, we can share the presentation after, all good. So hopefully that kind of makes sense of what it looks like. And again, I'm going to show a demo. I'm going to talk through a customer use case, and this will make more sense when you see some stuff. But for now, I want to just kind of talk through the framework of these things. So again, if there's any questions anybody has during the presentation, I'm happy to answer them as on the fly here. So throw them in there, and Sean will interrupt me and get a question in. So you can wait till the end for Q&A, or you can jump in. I'm easy either way. So speaking specifically, so we talked a bit of pretty high level, but specifically in the world of, Power BI, what are the challenges of everything I just said? Okay, so that sounds all nice and easy. We can create secure delivery platforms, segregated for our customers. We can package it up, as a product and ship it, as a service. But what is that? How do we do that? And Power BI doesn't necessarily do that natively. So what are some of the challenges? So when we're talking about, let's say I've got this great, visualization, data insight that I want to be able to share. And I want to be able to share that at scale. So maybe I have 100 customers, maybe I have 1,000 customers that need me to share that insight, that report that I have built, that I need to get out there. And that report, there's 1,000 iterations of that report, and I need to share it out. Well, how do I actually do that with Power BI? And this is where you start to run into some of the roadblocks pretty quickly. And I'll give you an example. We work with the European Banking Association, they're the governing body of all the EBA, they're called, the governing body of all European banking within the EU. And you can imagine the scale that they have to share insights at. They have to share insights to every bank in Europe, every government in Europe. So this is where we start to see where Power BI can break down in terms of that ability to share at scale. And also your delivery is restricted to Microsoft. So is your user, is it as a Microsoft user? How can I do that easily? Now there's ways to get around that in Microsoft, but it's very cumbersome. It's not exactly seamless. It's not exactly smooth to do at scale. So it's not a seamless external sharing capability. And again, if I want to share with people that aren't in Microsoft users, maybe I want to share to Google users and other users within an organization who doesn't use Microsoft, or they're using an OAuth system or something, and you need to be able to satisfy all those different requirements. And this is where things can be tricky with just static Power BI or standard Power BI, excuse me. The other issue is licensing. So if we're talking, well, I want to share out to 1,000 different users or 1,000 different organizations, and maybe within each organization, there's, dozens or hundreds of users, we can start to get into very significant scales quickly, multiple thousands, 5,000, 10,000, users. And this is where kind of the per user licensing model doesn't make a ton of sense anymore. It's also very difficult to kind of manage that. So this is where our Fabric capacity licensing, or Power BI capacity licensing, allows us to get away from that, and that's probably one of the big challenges, and the easy solutions for is leveraging kind of the usage-based licensing models that Microsoft allows. The other thing is brand identity. So if we're delivering insight outside of our organization, we typically want to package that. We typically want to deliver that under our branding, under our control of how that is actually exposed. And if I'm sharing a report via app.powerbi.com, I don't have complete control over the packaging of that. I don't have complete control over what that looks like when it lands into my customer's hand, in my internal user's hand. They have to go to powerbi.com. It's not exactly the most user-friendly interface to non-technical users or non-Power BI people. Obviously, there's ways to get around that. There's apps. There's other things within Power BI that can make that a little bit easier, but still, you still lack complete control over that experience. So if those are the problems, what's the solution? So really, it's removing those barriers. Delivering insights via what's really at the end of the day, a software as a service delivery platform. Now, that doesn't necessarily mean you have to charge for it. It just means that's what the platform looks like. It looks more like a SaaS than it does. And the software that you're delivering is actually your insight. It's your intelligence. It's your analytics. And you can share externally securely. You're not going to be bound to Microsoft users, so you can share to anybody, and you can share at scale, and you have full control over your branded identity. So you have full control over that platform. So that's really what the end solution is going to look like. So what's the opportunity in all this? So, when we talk about Power BI specifically, Power BI is huge. It's grown to an area where I think it's over. I think there's like 7 million Power BI developers or something like that around the world. There's over 500,000 organizations use Power BI today, so it's a massive. It's everywhere. But distribution, sharing, external delivery is still a challenge. It was never built to do that. It was built to be the internal platform. So if you want to move beyond kind of reports and dashboards, and you want to move to insight as a service or a SaaS solution, you really need to kind of figure out, you have to crack the nut of external delivery. You have to really figure out how to do that. And if you can do that, then you can turn insights into that kind of like actual SaaS productized. And that's where the true opportunity is, creating that value added service. Again, whether you charge for it or not is irrelevant, but it can be a differentiator of what you're offering versus what your customers are offering, a seamless delivery platform of analytics at scale, with not being crazy expensive or taking crazy long to implement. So again, there's scalability. You can scale very quickly, very easily in this model. There's a monetization opportunity. So we have a ton of customers who charge for the insights. Most of our customers charge for their analytics. So they've built customer-facing platforms where their insight is their product, and they sell that to different industries. But again, not always. That's not necessarily every organization's doing that, but mostly it gives you a competitive advantage. If you're delivering insights better than your competitor, if you're making it more seamless and smooth to share your insights and your analytics and your Power BI content at scale seamlessly with, 5,000 users, that gives you a competitive advantage. So when I talk about productized, I'm really referring to the idea of like SaaS or SaaSified, so software as a service. So it's where you have a defined offering. It's repeatable and scalable, so you can, I think one of the big challenges with Power BI, and there's probably some consultants on the call, on the webinar today. A lot of times we're building the same thing over and over and over again. Customer A, we go in, we build customer A, a customer solution, then we go to customer B, we build them the same solution that's a little bit different. And this is the idea of repeatability that we can have with this. We can build a model, we can build a platform that's fully repeatable, that we can share to, customer A, customer B, customer C in that multi-tenant environment, and that we can create a scalable delivery platform that's repeatable is a big, big thing. So self-serve and automation, also that's what we mean by productized, and value add or monetization. So when we talk about sharing externally, it can simply be just sharing externally to an external stakeholder, but it can also be a fully productized, monetized SaaS solution. So that's kind of the spectrum of what we're talking about in external delivery. So how does the Microsoft kind of stack fit in here? So to do this, it's not rocket science. It's not, we're using off-the-shelf available technology and stack that's available from Microsoft to enable this. So we use Power BI Embedded and we use AI Foundry. So these two things together, and I'll kind of explain why these are the backbone elements to an external solution. So Power BI Embedded is the engine for Power BI external delivery. So it's what allows us to take that Power BI visualization, embed it within a custom application, and share it outside of the four walls of your organization and outside of the Microsoft ecosystem. I'm just looking at the question that came in. Purview can, yes. So we're talking about governance, and Purview, again, it's going to be more of an internal thing. It becomes more difficult when we're talking external delivery outside of Fabric, outside. So if we're sharing AI insights, to a customer that's authenticated via Okta in an external application, it's going to be not necessarily as seamless to use Purview to get that granularity of governance. So that's kind of what I mean there is the difference between internal and external, where the water gets muddied when it comes to governance and auditability, and that with certainly AI insights, but really any insights with our data at that point. And if I didn't answer that, I'm happy to answer it after as well. But I just saw it pop up and I thought I'd take it on there. So Power BI Embedded allows for unlimited users. It allows for us to control and customize our UI, because Power BI Embedded is really just an SDK or a development toolkit that allows us. It's just a bunch of code snippets really that allow us to take Power BI and embed it within an application, and that's what allows us to build a custom UI around our intelligence, and allows us to integrate that within a SaaS product. So that's how Power BI Embedded fits into this. AI Foundry fits into this because if we want to be able to deliver AI insights on top of our BI reports and dashboards and visualizations, we need an AI element. And Copilot is not going to work in this case. So Power BI Copilot is not supported by Power BI Embedded. So we can't just use out-of-the-box Copilot if we're talking external. Again, this is the difference between internal versus external, and where the water gets muddied. We can't just plug in Copilot and share it with everybody. We have to build a system that allows us to take advantage of the Microsoft Fabric and Microsoft AI Foundry resources and share that externally. And that's really what AI Foundry allows us to do. It allows us to create multi-agent AI solutions, to find multiple data sources beyond Fabric. So maybe you have Fabric data sources you want to use, but maybe you have data sources that don't exist in Fabric. So things like, maybe it's just a web page that you want to scrape, or maybe it's a PDF file that doesn't necessarily live in Fabric, and you want your AI agent to have that reference data to within the context for delivering to your customer. So these are all things that AI Foundry allows you to do. And again, secure and compliant deployments in-tenant access controls. AI Foundry is really the backbone that gives us the ability to do those things. So some common challenges with these two platforms of Power BI Embedded and AI Foundry is, most BI people are not software engineers. So most data people are data people. They know how to build semantic models, they know how to build data visualizations, but they're not necessarily, devs. And obviously AI has come a long way in making all of us devs now. But still there's some challenges when we're talking, enterprise grade software. We're talking things that need to be extremely secure and governed and packaged. These aren't necessarily things you're going to vibe code. These are things that you want to make sure are production ready enterprise grade software. So to do that, you BI people aren't necessarily the ones to do that. You need dedicated kind of developers to do that. And that development overhead is significant. It can be the time to market is typically measured in months to build these solutions. So it's not days or weeks, it's typically months. And again, the big challenge I mentioned is Copilot is not supported by Power BI embedded for embed for your customers scenario, which is what we're talking about here. So that makes it difficult to just plug and play AI to your customers, AI insights to your customers. So it's not as simple or as seamless as it might seem at face value, like it is internally within your organization. Okay, so well, what are your options? How do you do this? So this all sounds great. So there's really two options. You build it yourself, or you go with an existing solution and you buy it. It's the build versus buy scenario. Um, the links I've given you are the actual Microsoft links to these two different lanes. The first link is the Microsoft documentation for how to build, how to use these technologies that Power BI embedded to build a solution like I'm going to show you next. And then the link on the right, the buy option is, again, it's Microsoft's documentation we're what's called a solution accelerator in the Microsoft world. So basically, we're one of several solution accelerators out there that allow you to kind of buy a pre-built solution to do these things. And that's the Microsoft Learn documentation page that talks about that solution accelerator concept. So it's really, these are your two options. So it's, you kind of have to decide what you want to go with. There's pros and cons for both. We won't get into it, in detail here, but you can imagine the pros and cons are, obviously if you build it yourself, it's going to take longer. You need to maintain it. And then if you want to buy it, you time to market, it goes a lot quicker. And then but you have a little bit less control, obviously. So
Hey, Brian, just question, is there any chance to put the links in the chat?
yeah, I will do that right now.
Perfect, thanks.
Hopefully this works.
Yeah.
All right, there's the two links.
Yeah, thank you.
All good. Okay, so architecturally, we'll talk about this. So when we look at kind of where this fits in the stack here, the stack that we're talking, I think most people in the Microsoft world have seen something, versions of this in every, in different presentations here or there. When we look at the fabric workloads and we look at that, how do we think of this in that context? So really it is it sits above that. It's a layer that sits on top of it, is the easiest way to think about it. So all of what you're doing in fabric today stays the same. So you don't need to do anything different. You're just adding a layer, that orchestration layer that we talked about. And that orchestration layer is effectively an Azure web app that's using Power BI embedded and using Azure AI Foundry. That's really what it is. It's a standalone web app. It's deployed to Azure, and it's built with Power BI embedded APIs, and it's built with Azure Foundry APIs, and it allows you to take advantage of all these things that I said and basically deliver it. So what does that actually look like in a little bit more detailed framework? And here's basically a very simple example framework where we have our data sources, and this could be anything. We have our integration layer. This could be, again, it could be anything. Could be shortcuts, could be data pipelines, could be, anything. And then we have our, this could be OneLake, but it doesn't have to be, right? This is a Microsoft example. This could be Snowflake. This could be anything. Databricks. And then, this is where we're doing our data prep and our data transformation. And then typically this is when we talk about the layers of external delivery. Most organizations stop here. right? They use this layer to do everything. They to build your reports, to share reports, to do all, all of that consumption. Your building, your consumption, all of that exists at this single layer. So what we're talking about is adding that additional layer specifically for delivery. And this is that custom web application. It's really the front end user interface for our insights, for our external delivery. And all of this exists within your Azure environment. It's a fully deployed, secure. And why we say it's fully governed, fully secure is because everything exists within your Azure infrastructure. Everything exists within your Azure resources. So it's external software, but that software exists as an Azure web app in your environment. So your data never actually leaves your environment. So you have no incremental risk when it comes to data exposure when you're building out a system like this. So let's talk about an actual customer use case to help make this real. One of our customers is Auto BI, and they're based in the UK. And they've been a customer for a long time, and we like using them as a example because everybody knows cars, everybody can understand cars in the automotive industry. So Auto BI is an analytics company, and they develop analytics specifically for automotive retail. So when you walk into a BMW dealership and you buy a BMW or any car, the dealership uses a system to track all of that data. It's like an ERP for specifically for automotive dealerships. And Auto BI built a full analytics offering based on that ERP level data from the dealership, because the automotive industry is very archaic when it comes to data, and they built these very sophisticated analytics suite for they started with BMW, and they started with one dealership. They were a consulting organization. They started with one dealership. They built a solution. They said, hey, we can productize this, we can repeat this to other dealerships, and that's how it started. And they became a reporting up customer 4 or 5 years ago now. They were one of our original customers, and they use reporting up to deliver out their intelligence through the model I just explained. And the cool thing is they went from one dealership. Now they have over 400 dealerships within their network, and they support. You can see the list of brands they support. BMW, Jaguar, Porsche is now in their portfolio. So all of Porsche dealerships in Europe are accessing Auto BI's intelligence insights via Reporting Hub, via this external delivery model that I've been talking about, and I'll show you a little bit more about what that looks like. So when you're Auto BI needs a way to be able to share. I need to be able to share securely, not just to BMW, but to all of BMW's individual dealerships. I need to be able to share to then Mercedes and Porsche and all of their individual dealerships. So this is where you start to understand where Power BI natively is going to break down on that distribution model and that delivery model. You need a way to be able to do that securely at scale, so I can grow my business from 1 to 400 dealerships or 1 to 400 customers in a way that I can grow and scale and keep secure and keep governed. So Jonathan Sharman is the founder and CEO at Auto BI. So I kind of talked about this already. I'm not gonna go through it, but they were actually acquired by the Bumper Group in the UK in 2024. So they're super great success story. They're actually over 500 dealership rooftops right now. They're getting into North America as well right now. They started in Europe, they're in the Middle East, and now they're getting into North America as well. So really, really great success story. And here's some of their pictures of their solution kind of live in the world within their customers. And then now let's actually jump into a demo right now. I'm going to try to seamlessly share, switch. Hopefully everybody can see that okay. Okay, so this is going to be a bit of a live demo of, this isn't their actual, I have their permission to kind of show a dummy example. This is a dummy example of what their solution might look like. I'm not actually sharing their solution. But what I want to talk about is just some key concepts of the external model that we talked about. So when I can land my customer in my environment. My environment is a secure web app. So in this case, it's presentation.thereportingup.com. But you'll notice it's not app.powerbi.com. This URL can be anything. So it can be yourdomain.com, analytics.yourdomain.com. It's your web app, so you control the domain. So that's kind of the first point of brand ownership, of delivery ownership, of we're not sharing via Fabric, we're not sharing via Microsoft, we're sharing via our own custom platform. So that's the kind of key thing. Then branding, of course, you can brand this, any way you want, customer logos, all that, colors, of course, all that kind of stuff. But, the idea is you're creating a custom platform for your external customer, and your external customer can authenticate via any different way, whether it's Microsoft, whether it's Okta, whether it's single sign-on, whether it's, you have control over how your customer accesses your content, how your customer accesses your web app when you build a model, like when you build a platform like this. So when we talk about multi-tenancy, you can talk about, okay, well, here's all my different tenants. So I can jump into my BMW tenant, or as an administrator, I can jump into Jaguar or Porsche, and I can see my entire network of all my different segregated environments, and each one of these environments is a dedicated, secure instance of the application. So it's a dedicated, it would be BMW dot yourapp.com, Porsche.yourapp.com. You can have dedicated URLs, domains for each of your areas, so that when your customer logs in, they're logging in and they're seeing, oh, I see BMW. When I log into Porsche, I see Porsche. You can create that secure, branded experience for each of your customers, so that it feels like it's their own custom space when they log in. And you're able to do that at the app level, not necessarily the report level. A lot of people try to use the report to do all these things. They jam in, logos and stuff like that. But the slicker way, the more polished way, if you're doing it at scale, is to let the app handle that, and keep the report, dedicated to report type stuff. I'm just looking at a question that came in here. Yes, it is. Yeah. So the question is about uh, customer access, accessing the dashboards and web portal. However, is the SSO end-to-end right down to the data? Yes, it is. So when you're using Reporting Hub or any other, if you build your own system like this, that's something that you need to take into account into managing that customer identity. So when the customer identity lands in your platform, you have to manage that down to the data level. So again, that's something the Reporting Hub does for you. But if you're not using Reporting, you have to ensure you build that into your platform. But yeah, so when the customer logs into the Reporting Hub, you have the identity of that customer, and then you can pass that to the RLS. So it doesn't have to be, again, it doesn't have to be a Microsoft user, and you can still take advantage of RLS or dynamic binding or these other Microsoft concepts. Uh, Yes, I think I would agree. There's demand all over for. I can certainly, if there's interest, I can connect you with Auto BI after. If you wanted to connect with Auto BI, I know Jonathan's always looking to be able to connect with people in the space. A question: does that mean that everyone who needs external access to these reports via the dashboard needs a license? No, that's not what that means. So you do not. Earlier, I said that's one of the big things about usage-based pricing is this user does not need a Power BI license. Because your license is managed by your Fabric capacity or your embedded capacity, you as the administrator of your application, you would grant that person access. So whether you grant them a license or you give it to them for free is up to you. But no, they do not need a Power BI license, or they do not need a Microsoft license in any way, shape, or form to do that. Can we have our own Power BI servers? Is that question referring to the on-premise Power BI servers that you're talking about there? If the answer is yes to that, then no. This is Power BI Embedded does not support on-prem Power BI. Everything I'm showing here is cloud-based Power BI. But if you're talking, oh yeah, cloud only. Yes, absolutely. This is 100% based on your Power BI instance. Yeah. Everything I'm showing here would be yes, you need a Fabric capacity. Yes, you do. So everything I'm showing you is either a Fabric capacity or an embedded capacity. So you can use as little as an F2. You can use the smallest Fabric capacity to do this. So you don't need to have an F64, which a lot of people will get confused about. They think you need an F64 to do this. You don't. You can do what I'm showing you with an F2. which is, I think, I'm not sure what it is in euros, but it's around $200 a month for an F2. So again, this is a fully functional embedded Power BI report. So when we talk about Power BI embedded, what we're seeing here is just Power BI embedded within an iframe of an application. So that's what Power BI embedded gives us the ability to do. Another cool thing is when we're building our own solution of application, it doesn't have to be just Power BI that I can embed. So I can have, in this case, this is AutoBI's website embedded, but I could embed anything theoretically into my web app. I could embed a custom web app that I have for data collection. Maybe we have a lot of customers who do that. They have a front end data capture web app where customers come in and manage their data or import data or do whatever, all within the same platform. And again, that's something where Power BI struggles with. Another common use case we see is people have reports that aren't Power BI. They want to be able to share PDF reports. They want to be able to share files, Excel files. They want to be able to share, in some cases, now with AI, people are building, AI visualizations right now. They're not even using Power BI. They're using Claude to develop HTML, JavaScript style data visualizations. Well, you can now embed that right alongside your Power BI content, because this is a web app controlling your delivery of your content, but your content can go beyond Power BI. It can be, when we talk about external delivery, we're removing the constraints that we have within Power BI, so that we can say, well, I can share a video, I could share a report, I could share an HTML report I built with Claude. I could share a PDF that I have. I can share all these different things in the same platform, in the same portal, which again is a big value add for your customers. On the AI side of things. So this is an example. Again, this is just a demo example, but here's an example of where you can have your AI layered into your web app. So again, Copilot's not going to be supported out of the box, but you can use AI Foundry, and this is just an AI Foundry agent, basically. So we have a built-in solution called BI Genius, which is a plug-and-play solution to use AI Foundry, but it's really just AI Foundry under the hood, and it's an AI Foundry it's an AI Foundry agent that we have wired up into our web app so that we can create a completely branded experience. So when our BMW customer logs in, they have a BMW AI agent that they can converse with that is fully branded, is fully controlled in terms of the data. So this agent is running off of BMW data. It's not commingled with Mercedes data. It's fully segregated and isolated. And you can have that AI chat experience or AI experience layered in with your reports and your dashboards seamlessly, so that we can have that experience for our external customer. We got some questions pouring in.
Just 2 questions there.
Okay, do we need a Fabric capacity or Azure capacity ASKU? Can we use FSKU? Yes, you can use both. So ASKU and FSKU both work as I'm showing you. Everything I've showed you today can work with an ASKU or an FSKU. So you can use an A1 as a minimum or an F2 as a minimum, and anything above that can also be used. Can we share our Power BI files read-only mode to external users so that they can view Excel or PDF files but cannot download or copy them? You want to share the actual files, like the PBICs in the Excel, I think, if I'm understanding that correctly. Yes.
Yeah.
Yes. So we have a module that allows you to file share. So what I'm showing you right now is an actual embedded Power BI report that cannot be downloaded, that cannot be shared like a PBICs. The customer's simply interfacing with that report via an iframe. Now that's not the they don't have access to PBICs, but Reporting Hub has a built-in file share module, which allows us to share PBICs and Excel files and all that, where I can access a page, and that page is basically a file share. It kind of looks like SharePoint, and I can go in and grab my PBICs, and I can control downloads and all that, whether I allow it or not. So yes, that can be done, but again, it's your web app that's handling that, not Power BI natively that's handling that. The Copilot with Fabric is very powerful. I'm not sure if Azure Foundry is as good. Yes, I would say it's good. It's as good, if not better, because you have more control over it. So it's not necessarily going to be as good out of the box. And by that, I mean, when you're talking Copilot, Copilot is a bit of a black box. You don't have a lot of control or customization available to you. You're kind of just using it as it's given to you. AI Foundry gives you tons of control over how you customize it, the context that you give it, the rules that you give it, you can give it custom instructions. You have a lot more control over it, and you can actually control how good it is. And I think that's one of the big difference that AI Foundry gives you. So it's more complex, and with complexity, comes, it's time, it's effort, it's all those things, but you can get better results from your AI Foundry agent that you're going to get with Copilot. For sure, we have our customers who have run both, and I'm not touting our solution. It's again, it leverages AI Foundry under the hood, but we've done all the work in terms of custom instructions, all those things that help create accuracy and efficiency with your AI queries. And we have a lot of customers that say how much better it is than the native Copilot in terms of consistent results. But again, it's because we put the time and effort into ensuring we have control over those things. Uh, Yes. So cost. Yes, of course. So going back to the reporting up as a cost, or so going back to the build buy model. That's what it comes down to. So if you're building yourself, you're not going to have a subscription cost. If you're going to buy a solution like reporting up, yes, you're going to have a subscription cost that comes with that. But the underlying Azure resource cost is not included in that cost. So you're going to have a subscription cost that comes with the prepackaged, the pre-bought solution like reporting up, and then you're also going to have your Fabric capacity costs and your Azure web app costs, those things as well. Now you're still going to have those costs if you build it yourself, but those are things you need to keep in mind when you're looking at a build versus buy scenario here. For sure, cost is a big part of it. Could you talk a little bit more about practical data labeling and data loss prevention, if I understand you correctly? Once stuff leaves purview, it's beyond our reach. But what's the practical experience on providing data to customers anyway without having data security engineers? I'm not totally sure. I think I understand the question, but let me know if I don't answer it correctly. It depends what you mean by data leaving your organization. So if all we're doing is sharing our Power BI report like this, we're not providing access to the underlying data. Now, we could theoretically enable the export data. Now, you control that. That's controlled in Power BI, not Reporting Hub or the app. The app doesn't control that. The Power BI controls the export data. So you can disable that and not allow that. But when we're sharing a data visualization like this, we're not inherently sharing the underlying data. So again, you control that, whether you're sharing the underlying data or not when you share via Power BI embedded. Now, with AI, when you share like a chat experience like this, you have control over the data and it can be RLS enabled as well. So you have control over which semantic model this agent is pulling from. So this semantic model might actually be different than this semantic model, because when you're just sharing a dashboard, you're only sharing what's on that dashboard. There's no incremental risk of, the customer can dig into data below that. Well, when you're sharing via an AI chat experience, you're basically giving your customer full access to your semantic model via your chat agent. So that's an inherent risk that comes with AI. So the way we handle that is we allow you to differentiate the semantic model for your AI agent versus your visualization model. So we can say the semantic model that feeds my AI agent is a dramatically scaled back semantic model. So we pull out data that we don't want to be shared or we don't want customers to be able to dig into, and then they just don't have access to it. The other thing we can do with our semantic models is we can pick and choose which tables, which columns we want our AI to be able to access. So we can control, even though I might share a semantic model that, let's say, has 5 tables and 100 columns, I can go in and say, I only want my AI agent to have access to 3 of those tables and 50 of those columns. So I have control over that as well, over what I can choose to enable my AI agent to have, and therefore my customer be able to access via. And then outside of that, excuse me, I gotta clear my throat. So I'm not sure if I answered your question perfectly there. Again, happy to chat via email or whatever after to dig into in more detail. But again, you ultimately control your data access, and you have the controls in place in which to do that. And I'm not really showing you in this demo, but there's a full backend auditability engine that sits behind all this that you can go in and I can say, okay, Brian asked this question yesterday, and here's the response it gave, and here's the reasoning it gave. Complete auditability, complete data tracing, where I can say exactly which customer asked which question, was delivered which response, the DAX generated for that. I can go in and actually dig into the complete under the hood, what the AI agent did, the DAX query it used to generate. I can actually go in and really get into the auditability and see exactly where that information came from and why it was given. I can actually dig into and show you the confidence scoring of why the AI gave this response versus a potential few other responses. We actually give you all the confidence scoring, so you can see, well, it answered this way because it had an 80% confidence, and the other answer it was potentially going to give only had a 60% confidence. So that's all the information that we give you behind the scenes in terms of that auditability that we talk about, of what's so important in terms of governance. And when we are sharing externally, we need to be able to answer these questions. Because if a customer comes to us and said, hey, I asked your AI a question, it told me 5, I need to be able to defend why it gave that customer the answer 5. And I need to be able to defend it in a way that's more concrete than potentially somebody internal to my organization. So again, that's going back to that governance, why that's so important. Okay, I know we've got a couple minutes left here. I want to leave it open to any final questions. I know this was pretty high level, but I really wanted to showcase, what's possible with external delivery, what's possible with packaging insights, and to make customer facing intelligence in a way that you can control, in a way that you can package and deliver in a way that, your competitors not, and do something in a way that's, unique and just doing things better than, what's currently available.
Perfect. Thanks, Brian. Did you get Alan's question? I'm not sure if you did. Our
Let me
users.
go back. There's a few there. Let me go back. Oh, sorry. Is it that our users who
Yeah,
use the
I'll
chat
check
box?
it. Oh no,
Okay, our users who, thanks for calling me out there. And if there's any other I missed, please let me know.
I think that's the only one.
Uh, our users who use the chat box just showed secured, as in they'll only be able to ask questions based on the data. Yes, that is correct. So when I'm asking questions to this chatbot it's secured on multiple layers. So the first thing is it's secured at the domain level. So BMW versus Porsche. So Porsche is going to access a Porsche agent. BMW is going to access a BMW agent. The user within BMW is also going to be defined of what they can have access to, and that's going to be defined a couple of different ways. You could do it at the report level. So you could have, I have access to this report, but you don't. You have access to this report and I don't. And we therefore have different agents that we can access. So there's that layer of granularity of access control. And then there's also the RLS, the actual data layer of RLS that we control with AI as well. So that, when I'm interfacing with this agent, it is accounting for role level security there as well. So I'm not accessing a table that I shouldn't have access to via my chat agent. So it's completely secure at 3 different levels, depending on how you set it up.
Perfect. Brian, would you be able to send me the presentation after the webinar? Just people asking it.
Yes, I will. I'll PDF it up and I'll get it over to you, and you can share it out to everybody.
Yeah, I'll put it under recording and people can get it. Yeah, I think that looks like all the questions. So on behalf of the ESPC community, I'd like to extend a big thank you again, Brian, for taking time out to carry this webinar. Really appreciate it.
Awesome. Well, thanks everybody. I hope that was helpful. Let me know if there's any questions that come up after the fact, or let Sean know and Sean can get them directed to me. Appreciate everybody's time. Have a great day.
Perfect. Thanks, everyone. See you at the next webinar. Take care.
Bye now.